Hello and welcome back. I'm going to start off this episode with a disclaimer on we all are on our own path, right? We all are taking our own journey to find our spiral, to find those allies on the journey that support our own work and our own ascension. And my journey from pretty much the very beginning has involved the elements and animals and trees and roots and vines and mushrooms and like all of the things that are like deeply rooted in this planet have reminded me who I am. And you know, there are many people out there that feel that we don't need any help to ascend, and we don't need the support of these allies that are here on this planet. My own take on that is I do not go into anything lightly. I wait for signs to show me the way of what is right for me when an ally shows up. And I have gotten to the place of trusting myself so deeply in my own knowing of what feels right for the next step on my spiral. And when people are talking about plant medicines, you know, if you go into them with your mind thinking that it's going to change something in you, it's just going to highlight the things in you that are not resonant. So when you hear about people having like discomfort in the experience with plant medicine, it's usually because they haven't opened up themselves alone, like into their subconsciousness, and those things are going to bubble up first. So I want you to know that I am in no way saying this is your path, but I also believe that there is room for the medicine path in a very centered way, and one that is full of love, full of grace, full of like just gratitude, because the plants for me have really helped me shed so much of the conditioning that I have on myself. You know, like you can't even, when you get to this point, you can't even say like from my parents, from my upbringing, because like, a lot of my own hurdles are my own making. And for me, the allies that have shown up in this way have really guided me to the let go of these ridges or these edges that I hold, you know, and the mind can only go so far with with all of this. It's like, in every experience I've had with plant medicine, it's how deep can you release? Like, how deep can you surrender the ego to what the vibration of that plant is trying to communicate with you and to you and through you? And I've also witnessed that those that have this, how would I say it? Like this block to let go, meaning to surrender to source, to surrender to the elements, to surrender to a higher truth, there is also discomfort. You know, my very first episode, my first experience with an ally was 5-MeO-DMT, and you guys can go back and look up that episode if you haven't heard it. But I didn't go into it even knowing about medicines. I didn't have any idea what I was, you know, moving towards. I just trusted deeply in the moment and that whatever was presenting was coming into my path for a reason, because at that point I was still in the matrix, and I was like so deeply open to my heart and saying like, okay, so far from the moment that I opened my heart, like the right people have landed in my path to guide me. And I had to trust. Like, I remember all I said is, will I be able to drive home? I didn't know, like, the word, like, medicine didn't even, you know, none of it, there was no, like, past reference. So I did not go Googling. I didn't know any of it. But in that experience, I met source. I met like this dissolving of every part of this being went back into the collective unity. And I remembered that all I'm here to do is give love. And I'm not here alone doing that. So that was like my basis for understanding, like, okay, from that place of remembering, my path just like blossomed open, because all I had to do along the path is choose that love vibration. Nothing in my experience, and my experience with any ally in medicine, has been anything less than love. But it's possible, because going into them, I always knew, like, I am love. So you draw towards you what vibration you are. Now, I'm not saying that, again, this is not everyone's experience, but I think in the full let go, and, this is me like sitting in many ceremonies and observing others and seeing the whole spectrum of where people are in their own journeys. It all boils down to, can you surrender, and the surrender happens long before you sit in ceremony. And today I want to explain and bring you on the journey of my experience with a new ally that presented. I feel like it's a female energy, so I'm going to say that she presented, and her name is Tepezcohuite. And I had many signs that she was on her way before she arrived. So I'm going to give you this as just an example to start to understand, is a medicine calling you? Okay, so my first experience with Tepezcohuite, or she's also referred to as the Tree of Life, started at the beginning of my journey with this beautiful Tree of Life behind me. That came when I was in Bali, and we were in this market, and when I saw one similar to her, I knew that energy was meant to come home with me. Now, it's hard to tell, but this macrame is actually huge. It's like I had to like carry this thing on, and it's huge. But I didn't care. Like, I knew like that was coming with me. So that happened 4 years ago. So I'm now able, with hindsight, to see like that energy was calling me. I didn't really understand what the Tree of Life was. I didn't know why it was calling to me, but I knew it needed to come with me from Bali. So then, years go by, and last summer in my town, there was a rummage sale or a yard sale. And in that yard sale, mainly it was all of the crystals from a mother that had passed away. Her daughter was selling the crystals and donating all of the money to charity. And I mean, this woman was a collector. She had everything. And my mom and I and Richard went, and we were just like, oh, and I mean, on top of it, the prices were like extremely below what they are worth. And it was just like opening up a treasure chest of just amazingness. And in that, I asked, like, what is your, tell me the story of your mom. And like, was she a healer? Because she had many things that were definitely healing energies. And she was like, no, she just was a collector. She loved crystals. She, it made her happy. She was a collector of crystals and metaphysical things, but also she was a crafter. And she had a bunch of jewelry too. So in this experience and communing with, her name is Bobby, I found this ring. And this ring is one of the many jewelries that I got from her, but this one is the Tree of Life. And I knew that one's coming with me. So that was my sign number 2. Again, consciously, I did not understand what was going on. I just knew like that energy from Bobby is meant for me. And I know it will present at some point. So until it presented, this ring was right here on my desk. I have a bowl of of rings that I hold as like when it's time for their arrival, they're here. Like when I consciously understand them, I pull the energy to sit with. So that was number 2. Then let's see, it would have been like 3 months later. I was down in the kitchen and I was doing like cleaning, but I was also doing my nails, and I had on Gaia. The show was called Ancient Civilizations, and it was just playing kind of in the background, but I was like, paying attention, but not paying attention, doing other things. And this episode came on called The Tree of Life. And something was like more on alert. I was like really more interested in what was happening in this episode than the ones prior. And at one point they say that there is a species of tree that carries medicine, and it carries in the bark DMT, and that they have been able to diagnose like this specific species of tree that is the tree of life. And I remember stopping and being like, what? There's another medicine out there that hasn't come into my sphere at all yet, but I've been like, again, unconsciously pulling this energy towards me. And I remember just sitting there and being like, oh my gosh, there is another medicine out there. I don't know how I didn't Google, no, but I knew it's coming. Like that was my first conscious experience with Tepezcohuite. And I was like, okay. So Richard got home that night and I was like, babe, you gotta like listen to this. There's this tree, the tree of life. Everybody knows the tree of life. It is a symbol that is in broad daylight. And yet, like the way I felt it was, symbols are everywhere, but until you reach a frequency to hear that symbol or that code, it's just a tree, you can, yes, we've heard it's like the more rooted we get, the higher we can climb. I've heard that as above, so below. Like all of these are concepts that I understood, but I didn't take it to the next level of it's also an ally in your journey when you crack the code. So, yeah, I had that and I was like, okay, now that was the third sign, and I was like, okay, but no, the first conscious sign, but the third now in hindsight. So now I'm aware. Now I'm like, okay, let's see if it's meant for me. It'll come into my sphere and we'll dance. So about a month after that, Richard and I were in New Mexico and we went to Roswell. And I've talked about this in a previous episode. I didn't feel any energy for Roswell in the way that Roswell is popular. So I'm just going to leave that disclaimer there. But we were in the Roswell Museum, and there's this like all of this content about the event that happened. And then as you like turn the corner, there's one exhibition that is all about the tree of life. And that's like, I felt like I did like a beeline around the thing and found it. And I just spent my time there. And again, it's saying the same thing, that this was definitely from the Mayan culture. It's something that they were showing us and bringing forward to us as like a technology. There is, and I'll put it here on the video, this image that is carved into this, I think it's a tomb, or sarcophagus, I don't know the word that they would call it in the Mayan civilization, where it shows a man sitting basically it looks like a spaceship, but really it's the tree of life, and it's a technology showing like this is a way to connect. And that's basically what this exhibition is talking about. And I'm like, oh, and I bring Richard over and I'm like, look, here it is. This is what I told you, that there is medicine in the tree of life. And he's like, okay. Okay, so that happened. I think I was on that trip it would have been September. So like beginning October, I hosted an energy circle, and one of my sisters that came on, and she looked like she was glowing, and I was like, what is going on with you? And she's like, you guys, I just experienced a ceremony with Tepe. And I'm like, Tepe, what's Tepe? And she's like, well, have you heard of the Tree of Life? And I was like, oh, I sure have. And I've been waiting for you. So yes, it came in as like a full presentation of this is what Tepezcohuite is. And I'm going to read to you from the website that is called quantumsouljourney.love. I've gotten permission to share this transmission with you, and I hope that the signs present for you guys as they did for me, and maybe this is just one of them. So Tepezcohuite is a Mayan medicine, also known as the Mayan ayahuasca. Tepezcohuite comes from the Mimosa tenuiflora tree originating in the Yucatan Peninsula. The Mimosa tenuiflora is a beautiful tree, also known as the sacred tree of life. It births incredibly bright, colorful flowers that give the energy of expansion beyond words, also known as Akasha medicine. Tepezcohuite heals on a cellular level. This tree expands the mind, rekindles the soul, and decalcifies the heart. Tepezcohuite opens the veil and heals on an internal level, healing timelines simultaneously. So, yes, I was like, what? And the process is you go through this kind of meet and greet with the facilitators well before you even land into a ceremony. So I reach out to them, and within, I don't know, a week, I had my interview, and it was beautiful. It felt like kindred spirits coming together. And I knew that when the right time was, it would come to my field, meaning this medicine is a traveler. It's not just in one city, one state. It moves around. So I also know that if this medicine is meant for you, it will come to you. So that's how I felt. I knew, okay, it's landed. It's here. And I also am going to make sure that the timing is right with it. I'm not going, so that interview and all of that happened, I believe, like October-ish time. And I waited, because that's what you do. When a medicine starts working with you, it's like, okay, now I consciously see you. I know we're going to be working together, but I also know that, you know, the timelines of that experience need to align and the right time needs to happen. So, this is how it happened. I went through, and I'm going to bring this back up, a liver cleanse, which was my second liver cleanse, which brought up a lot of my really deep wounds, primarily my father wound. The day that I released that wound, and meaning I reached out to both of my father figures, and it looked like giving them love and an unconditional forgiveness, but what it felt like is giving myself that unconditional forgiveness and love. That day, my friend that brought in this beautiful experience texted me and said, it's coming to you. It's coming on this date. And I was like, okay. So here's what I want to say. The moment that I released this dense anchor that had been with me my entire life, here it was, and it was saying, now it's time. Your timelines have matched, and now you can go into her frequency. So that was the way it worked out. It was like 3 weeks later that the actual ceremony was near me, and I was able to partake. So now I'm going to go into the Tepe ceremony, and I'm going to give it from my perspective, because that's all I can do. I also am doing this with such reverence for the amazing space that was held by the shaman. His name is Omar. And to be in space with divine masculine, but also holds a sacred feminine, it was just, it's like incredibly hard to put into words, but to feel the expansiveness of his soul, that helps in the surrender. So we collected this eclectic group of beings, and most of the people there, it was their first time experiencing this medicine. So, it was a whole spectrum of what was going to present. And, first we went around the circle and introduced ourselves. And then we broke up into groups, and we're working specifically with our intentions with Tepezcohuite. So this is, now I'm going to give you why this part of the ceremony was so important, because now I completely understand. The journey with Tepezcohuite is a short one. It's like, I would say 10 to 15 minutes long. And it's not one that is you're communicating with her. It's like, it's a receiving energy, where ayahuasca feels like a lazy river that lasts many hours, and there's a conversation happening, and you can dance and speak and have dialogue of whatever it is that she's presenting versus what you're working through. And it's a give and take, where Tepezcohuite is like here. So the idea of having a very clear intention is like the most high priority, because if you're setting that frequency in your system and you're anchoring it in, that's the vibration that you're going to receive. So we broke into groups. I think in our group there were 5, and we each spoke with a facilitator as a collective in that group. And kind of mine looked like, this is what I'm working with. I feel like I need to learn how to share my light, share my love or have the courage to share my light and my love, no matter what's happening around me. To step into that full embodiment of light, basically. And so as I'm explaining kind of what I'm working with, and I also explained that, in a short period of time, I would be hosting my first gateway on our property. And I want to be able to move in that liminal space of the in-between, the bridge, without my ego getting in the way of feeling like it's too much, or it's too much energy. Because I feel so much of people that I get really introverted because I feel so much. So I wanted to find this dance or this balance of being in that bridge. And so then she took all of that wording and distilled it down to a sentence, which mine was, the courage to share my light fully. So that was my anchor. And then we go back down into the ceremony room, and we sit around, and first the facilitators had their dosage with Tepe, and so that we could each kind of see how does it work. It's something that you actually smoke, and basically watching, being able to see how they reacted, what are we expecting here? And then after the facilitators each had a small dose, then it was my turn, and the group so he called, I think 4 of us to the sacred Tree of Life blanket altar. And I happened to be first in the group that I was with. And my first experience was nothing. I have an aversion to smoke. I've never smoked in my life. I've never smoked cigarettes. I enjoy cannabis, but never as a smoking. I have very sensitive lungs. I usually cough if I'm around smoke. So my first intake of Tepe felt like I was stuck. I would say I was stuck in the experience of the smoke. And he had said the first doses is the handshake. It's a very small amount. And he wanted us to kind of bow down after we took the first inhale, and just be in our own body. And what does it feel like? So for me, I went down, and I was like, wow, wait a minute, you did call me here, right? Why don't I feel you? And I was like, okay, well, maybe it's just reconfiguring me until the next dose. So then my second dose was, okay, so the actual technique is you take it in and you're like, and you hold it. And throughout the day, that holding was over and over a difficult thing for me to do, because again, I think I have an aversion to having smoke in my lungs. But the longer that you can hold it, the deeper that the medicine can go into your system. And that second dose, I dissolved, I let go. And the way that looked, my eyes were closed and I could feel the tapestry of energy and see it moving and moving and moving and becoming one with that flow. And it just felt like, I've seen this image before in ayahuasca. It's like this, I mean, everything in energy, whether you're looking at the earth, I don't know, at the cosmos, it's like this. Like, think of a blanket of actual tapestry of all these different fibers and colors and threads, like woven together. It's like that. So in that dissolve of my ego, I opened my eyes and I had, oh God, like the love that was pouring out of my system was like intense. So I think I first made eye contact with the shaman, and I just was like, like seeing him through the lens of love, like, but not love in the linear sense of love, like feeling it so deeply as if we are literally one being. And in that reunification, there's this blossoming of this remembrance that we've planned this, our souls planned this a long time ago. And I was just meeting Tepe and Omar in that node point. And then as I looked around the room, I was like, oh my God, the amount of angelic and just presence of each of the souls that were gathered around the circle. I had this overwhelming sense to share that love with them. So I looked, let's say there were 15 people there. I don't exactly remember, but let's say 15. I made eye contact with each one until I got their eye contact back, and I gave them the energy that I was feeling for them. And tears are just like pouring out of me, because when you hold space for another in their remembrance, the way I feel it is that it's like being in a womb and looking around and seeing those sparks that agreed to hold space for you to see yourself again in that light. And I mean, how do you thank them? How do you, like, and again, this is without words, because we're literally, I'm in the circle of medicine. So I just communicated that love individually with each person, telepathically. And it was interesting because some people really had a hard time looking at me, and I could sense like where each person was in their own journey of love and receiving, and how I consciously understood I'm in this space of feeling the medicine and you're waiting your turn on the outside in some way. But I also felt like, but you can remind them what's coming. And so I did. And I just wept and wept and wept. And it just felt like so divine. And I believe that turn around the circle was that we just did 2 doses. And then he called in the next group. And so then the group that I was in, we went and sat down on the sofas and stuff and held space for the next group. And in that next group, like seeing how everyone else worked through their energy. And I'm going to say that I'm just giving you my perspective of my experience, but there was the gamut. There was a whole mixture of everything. Some people purged, energetically purged. Some people just like fell back and were just in the ecstasy of it without consciously understanding what's going on. Some people met their soul for the first time. Like, it was like whatever each person's intention was, that's what they received. And I think Tepezcohuite is an extreme heart opener. I've tried Wachuma once in my path, and the most I can relate it to would be that experience with Wachuma, but on steroids, because Wachuma is like a 10-hour experience. This is like a shot to the heart. It's blasted open and there you are. But again, then I think, but that was my intention. So I think depending on what each person's intention was, that was the medicine that she imparted with them. So then we were sitting around holding space for the next group, and it's just like, Omar's very intentional. He's made it very clear that when people are in their ceremony, nobody gets up, nobody leaves the space. Everybody is there consciously holding that group. So, which is everything. I mean, to know that you have all of these brothers and sisters around you, like keeping you steady this is why I love ceremony so much. To be with like-minded people that just want love in this world, like how much better does that get, So as we're holding space for this next group, one of the participants, she was just she laid back and she was laughing and she was just in it and just in such a beautiful way and totally surrendered to the experience. And at one point, Omar called me over to come and sit with her. And again, I haven't experienced this type of ceremony before, so I didn't know, I said, me? And he's like, yeah. So I get up and I go and I sit in front of her, and we just I think first we held each other's hearts and we held each other's gaze. We eye gazed for, it felt like a long time. And then she broke eye contact with me. So I was like, okay. So I asked her if we could join our pineals, and she said yes. And so we were just like what it felt from on my side of the equation was I was consciously trying to guide her into her body to feel it coming from her soul to her, instead of it being an outside expression, like dropping it in. And I mean, it was like such a beautiful moment, and to be able to hold someone in their own opening during their own ceremony was just lovely. So then their time was done, and then the next group, it was their turn. And this time I changed my position in the circle surrounding everyone. And I don't know, I felt like I don't know. I feel like I'm called over to this side of the group, and I just felt it. So I went and sat in a different area, and not consciously knowing why, but as that group went through the medicine, I could feel why. I was kind of behind two males, and the one on the right of me, so in front of me, but on this side, it was both of their first time, but the one on the front of the right, I could tell would not be open to me touching. So I didn't do that, but I was just holding the back of his energy to make sure that he was grounding it in. And then on the right side was oh my God, I just melted into him. Oh God, the way it felt in my body was the most nurturing part of me that could come forward wanted to be there and hold space for him. And it got to first I was holding his hand, and then I ended up holding his feet and just holding him, touching him, hugging him. I believe we both cried. Just wanting to give that physical nurturance that I know he was receiving from the medicine. And I go back to what my intention was, which was to have the courage to share my love, right? So I'm okay, this is what I asked for. This is the medicine is working, obviously, because this me in a non-connected way to Tepezcohuite would have the urge to do this, but I would be afraid of the reaction of this stranger that doesn't know me, coming up to him and like just grabbing him and like, so I wouldn't do it because my ego would be like, no, that's not socially okay, but in this safe space, it felt definitely okay. So then, Omar starts asking everyone to kind of fill in the space around these 4 people that are there receiving the medicine. And as we each kind of came and took a spot, we ended up all having more doses. So almost like as someone was ready to receive another dose, Omar would come to that person and that person would partake. And then he would like intuitively know like who's ready, who's not ready. So I will say some people only did the handshake. Some people, like, I think I had 6 doses. Some people maybe 3, like it was all based on where someone was in their openness to receive this medicine and how deep did they want to go into this medicine. There were a couple of doses, the first one and like the 5th one where I didn't feel anything, because I was so deep in the vibration of it that I just was melted already, and I don't think that I came out from the depths of it. My overall just gratitude for seeing myself experienced. Also, this is a daylight ceremony, which means that you are able to go into other people's energies, which for the most part, my experience with ayahuasca has been nighttime ceremonies, which is very in your own energy and you don't open yourself up to others. Tepezcohuite is like the more open that you can be, the more open that you can be. Like, how much light can you pour forth from your vessel? That's how it felt. Like, how much more can I break open? And it was magic. Such a beautiful dance, so different. Like Omar described it as a cross between ayahuasca and, did he say, and 5-MeO DMT. I've done both of those. I personally felt it more of a cross between ayahuasca and wachuma, but I could see the 5-MeO DMT is a huge dissolution of the ego. And it's a quick journey. It's the same, about 15 minutes. So in that way, they're similar. This is a much gentler ride. You're conscious the entire time, where in 5-MeO DMT, you lose consciousness for a lot of the experience. This felt like, I would say this felt like the step towards a long journey with ayahuasca. If I was to like rank how to step in, I would say this would be a beautiful entry point to then ayahuasca to then 5-MeO. But me, I did them completely opposite. I did 5-MeO, ayahuasca, then Tepe. So I mean, obviously, how the medicine comes to you is how it's supposed to. But in terms of like strength and power of like rocket ship versus lazy river, that's how I would describe them. So in my integration and in what's evolved since then, oh my gosh, so much forgiveness for myself in a lot of the ways that I was holding ridges in my own body. Like it feels like a softening into my knowing of the original message I got from 5-MeO DMT, which is that I'm just here to share love. But how does that look in the actual vessel, and in the actual melding of the ego and the soul? And I would say that this ceremony prepared me to receive the gateway here. It helped me to understand that all I have to do is be brave enough to be who I am. The medicine helped me to see that in myself. It's not courage. It's like a tree doesn't need courage to grow and to root, right? And what she showed me is I don't need courage to do this. I just need to be. I just need to be who I am. That's it. Like, there is nothing more. There's nothing. That word courage is a third dimensional word. I feel like it's not in the realm of spirit, and all we are doing is like blossoming forward into our full spectrum of light here, and being, no. And so then what it looked like is like the next weekend, Richard and I were at a garden. We went to a gardening store, and then we went to this kind of tool rental place, equipment rental place next door, because we needed to rent a tiller. And there was a man there, and his name is, oh my God, I just blanked on his name. I think his name is Mark. And the moment I was standing at his desk and we're talking about this tiller, like something came over me, this like wave came over me. I looked down at him, on his hand, his left hand, it says R.I.P. Mom. And then this unconditional love started pouring through me, and it was like so intense I could not move. And so Richard is like, okay, it's time to go. And I was looking at him like, imagine like you're in a coma, and my eyes got big, and I was like, I can't move. And I knew that my body wouldn't move until I acted, because that was my like first experience of taking this medicine out into the world. So I look at Mark and I say, I see that your mom has passed. And he looks at me and he goes, what? And I said, I pointed to his hand, and all I could do is just hold his hand. And I just said, I feel it. And he just looked at me like, what is going on? And weirdly, I had gotten his card because with this tiller thing, we needed to reserve it. So I get home and I'm like, is that why I got his card? Am I supposed to write him and explain what just happened? I don't know. And I got the message like, no, just let it be. Okay, so then a couple weeks go by, and we end up needing to rent a tile saw. And we go to this one that's in our town, and they don't have a tile saw, which meant that we were going to go back to this place where Mark works. So we walk in, and it's a Saturday, and there he is. And we're talking about a tile saw. We go about like the paperwork and whatnot. And then Richard goes to go load it in the car, and I'm there alone with Mark. And I said, do you remember me? And he looked up and he said, I do. And I said, okay, this is going to sound strange, but I'm a medium, and I when I'm around you, your mom comes and she's showing me that she's here for you, and she wants you to know that she's here. And as I'm saying this, just tears are going down my face. He goes like this, and his whole arm is like goosebumps everywhere. And he goes, you don't know how much this means to me. I asked for her support last night. My daughter and I prayed to her last night. He goes, I was a mama's boy, and I feel really lost without her. And I said, well, the thing is she wants you to know she's here. She's always here. She's you, and she wants you to know that. And he's just looking at like, he's shocked, like he doesn't even know what to say. And in comes Richard next to me, and I looked at him and I said, I told him. And he goes, oh, because I had told Richard what happened when we got in the car the first time. And he goes, he says something like, you need to leave him alone, or something like that. And Mark goes, no, it was the best gift that I could have received. Like this, I actually have been asking for this. And then Richard's like, oh, that's good. Okay. And then Mark and I just had this moment with each other. Like, what I would say is like that same experience of deep gratitude, the knowing that this time-space reality was just matching, and we were finding it together as one. So as we were leaving there, I was just like, so much gratitude, like feeling like I was able to meet a part of myself in real time that wasn't afraid to give the message and hold space with that person for what they were going through. So then we're on our way home, and Richard, he's he's become a baker of sourdough fairly recently. And he goes, I have 4 loaves that you can give away today. So who do you want to give them to? And I said, like, because we give them to our neighbors, and he brings them to work, and I bring them to the like local shops. Like the person that helped us rescue Sophia, I bring her bread. And when he said that, I was like, oh, one is supposed to be for Mark, but it's about 20 minutes away from our house. So I was like, but I'm not going back that direction. So I was like trying to figure out who they were meant for. And, you know, we go home, Richard sets up the tile saw, and it's a brand new tile saw. And it turns out that the water pump in the tile saw literally just doesn't even turn on. It's like brand new and it doesn't work. So he's like, so I call and Mark answers, and I'm like, hey, the thing, you know, the pump doesn't work. He's like, okay, well, can you take it apart and just bring me the pump and I'll give you a different pump? So then I realized, like, oh, wait a minute. Is this pump not working so that I can bring him a loaf of bread? So I did. I brought him a loaf of bread. And the moment I walked in this time, he said, can I give you a hug? And I was like, of course, bring it in. And we just had this beautiful embrace, and it was perfect. And it was like it felt like the circle was complete for both of us, because I needed that mirroring to show me, like, it's safe to show your light. You know, it's safe that possibly those souls that are ready for your light are who you're going to get the message for to give the light, you know. And it was my first time, like, being out in public, being me in a way that, you know, I didn't go into and explain my whole story. And it was just this reminder that Tepe brought that, you know, that space to me. So I want to share this beautiful experience with you guys. This is probably the first time that I've been given permission to share a resource for a medicine. And the site is called quantumsouljourney.love. There's a lot of information on that site, so you can, you know, dig deep with the mind and really discern if this is a medicine for you. But I can't recommend it enough if you feel the call of the tree. And I also would just say the call of a deeper knowing into your own self, because for me, all of these plant medicines are just like dropping codes for you to unlock your own knowing inside. You know, they're not here to change anything. Of course they change everything, because the more you know, the better you do, you know, and the more brave you are and the more courage you have. But it's just meeting yourself, and they, like, the way it feels is they thin the veil between our forgetting and our remembering, and then support that journey into a full expression of what does this look like, you know? And I'm just giving you my experience with Tepe, and like, other people were there for many different reasons, but overall, everybody got what they came for. You know, whatever their intention was, that's the medicine that they received. And ayahuasca is very similar in that way. She's got like tentacles moving through your entire system, along with the songs and the Icaros, and it's like this divine technology that is able to pinpoint exactly what's ready to express. Also, they had beautiful live music and just the most angelic players that anytime you can be in live music in medicine, it's like seeing someone's heart on full display in their creatrix experience. And yeah, to witness these souls in that space was just magic as well. So if you are looking for a safe space to be held and to try, like, dip your toe into the medicine world, Tepezcohuite is just a divine technology that I think the Mayan people were wanting to share through symbolism for a long time. And Omar did say that this medicine, and you'll read more about him on the website, but he's, I think, one of 9 shaman that have been initiated into this lineage. It's very rare to come across. It's not something that's like ayahuasca and out in the public. He said at this point, he believes only 600 people total in the world have been served this medicine. So it's just it's just stepping out into the light and into our reality, which feels like you have this divine gratitude for even being able to find the frequency of the Tepezcohuite and like have that dance with her. So I like, again, so grateful for Omar, for his team, for my friend that dropped this beautiful ceremony in, and for all the signs that I received from Tepe along the way, so that I knew when it arrived it was time.